Okay, welcome everybody. Shavua Tov. So we're on Daf Yud Gimel, about 5 lines from the top, and the subject was Rav Yehuda said in the Mishnah that besides the Kohen, could prepare another Kohen in case the Kohen Gadol gets puzzled. So also you have to prepare for him another wife, because the pasuk says V'chiper ba'ado v'ad beiso. Today's parsha, we just had Parsha Zaprim, also all about the avodah of the Kohen Gadol. And since it says V'chiper ba'ado v'ad beiso, means his family, his wife, he has to have a wife. The Kohen Gadol who doesn't have a wife is possible for the avodah on Yom Kippur. So Yehuda says, just in case his wife might die, so he has to be ready with another wife. So they get ready, they prepare another wife for him. The Rabbanan said that in Kain and the so if so Bichoshesh, that the other wife, the one that you prepared, also might die, and there's no way to take all the precautions. So there's no reason to take any precaution. The Rabbanan themselves is very strange. In the Mishnah, we ask the kasha ourselves that it says that Yoach Hoshesh, the Kohen Gadol will become puzzled, and therefore you take a precaution. But they're not Hoshesh that wife will die. If you Hoshesh for this Shema, if you Hoshesh for that Shema, maybe. The Gemara is going to, as far as the Engel Dova Sof, the second time that Rabbanan said, that the Gemara is going to take care of soon. The Gemara will address that soon. But first, how come the Rabbanan are Choshesh for this, they're not Choshesh for that? It means that their own personal reason, they didn't say the reason of Engel Dova Sof, but the Gemara understands that wasn't their real reason. The real reason was that they weren't Choshesh. And that's the most question, a simple question. How come the Choshesh, maybe the Kohen Gadol will become puzzled, but not Choshesh, maybe the Kohen Gadol's wife will die? Simple answer, that it's more usual that a Kohen will become Tameh than somebody should die, that his wife should die. So for this one you're Choshesh, this one you're not Choshesh for. So that's the reason why they weren't Choshesh for it. But the Rabbi said you're Choshesh also that his wife will die. But then the Rabbanan said, even the Shitasla, even according to your reasoning, but what are you going to do to take a precaution, to get another wife? Maybe that wife also will die. If you're Choshesh for one, you're Choshesh for many. And therefore, there's no way to take a precaution. So the Gemara goes through the question and answer over there. So the Gemara asks, Shapri Kamila Rabbi Yehuda. So they said the good time is Rabbi Yehuda that if you're Choshesh for one, you're Choshesh for two. So the answer is not so hard. Rabbi Yehuda, Choshesh for one death, but not Choshesh for two deaths. Two deaths surely are more far removed. That two people should die. One person might die. That two people should die is more far removed. He's not Choshesh for two. But the Rabbanan say that you have to be consistent. If you say there's a chashash of death, so then maybe two, maybe three, maybe four. Rabbanan if there's such a chashash, you have to be Choshesh even for more. And since you can't take care of the chashash 100%, it's not hermetically preventable, so you don't have to take the precaution at all. But now the kasha is back according to Rabbanan. If they say the svara of Engel Dova Sof, so then they should say it also by the Kohen Gadol. By the Kohen Gadol that he prepares another Kohen just in case it becomes puzzle. So even though it's a chashash, it is a reasonable chashash will become tummy. But what's the precaution to prepare another Kohen? So maybe the next Kohen will become puzzle. Maybe the next Kohen will become puzzle. So if you say that svara Engel Dova Sof, that there's no end, it's not a definable, definite way of preventing it. So then also by the Kohen Gadol, even if there be such a chashash, but there's no way to prevent it. You can't take 100% precaution. Rabbanan, why don't Rabbanan say to themselves at the same time, the end of that was self? Rabbanan, Kohen Gadol Zarasu. The Rabbanan say the Kohen Gadol is Zarasu will take care that it shouldn't become tummy, it shouldn't become puzzle, which doesn't make sense yet. If the Kohen Gadol takes care that it shouldn't become puzzle, so then you don't have to do any precaution. That's what the Gemara says right away. The Gemara is in the middle of explaining. A lot of times the Gemara does that it starts explaining, but the Gemara hacks up in the middle to say it doesn't make sense until we explain ourselves. As the Gemara says, if he's careful that he shouldn't become tamei, so then what's the problem? You don't need any precaution. The Gemara says, no, that's what we mean to say. It's a way of making him more careful. The fact that the Kohen Gadol knows that if he becomes puzzle, someone else is going to take over, so that arouses in him a bit of more consciousness to make sure he doesn't become puzzle. If he doesn't have anybody behind him, so it looks like he's the Kohen Gadol, so he might be lax in taking care of himself, and he might become puzzled by mistake. But the fact that he sees someone is waiting just in case he becomes puzzled, so that on the contrary, that's going to make him more aware and be careful more that he shouldn't become puzzled. That's the first sugya. Just to sum it up, it took care of two issues. One was that one of themselves hold there's no chash of misa, there's no chash of the wife dying. You don't have to, even though you don't have to take care of any problem. But by tumah that Kohen Gadol might become puzzled, you do have to take care of that. As far as the time of Engel Dova Sof, so Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold to that. He does as much as he can, even though it's not foolproof, but you do as much as you can. Rabbanan say it has to be foolproof or nothing. And the reason why they do take care of the Kohen Gadol to prepare another Kohen is not really in case the Kohen Gadol is going to become puzzled. It's really because then it'll never so. If they just prepare once, maybe prepare two, maybe prepare three. So the real understanding of what they meant to say is prepare somebody that in that way the Kohen Gadol will make sure it doesn't become puzzled. That's the end of that sugya. The next sugya starts very interesting and very interesting. The Gemara is an example. Rashi over here says that the Gemara, when it says sometimes cheshbonos, it doesn't say things that are dafka rational at each step. Sometimes it just wants to work it out with you, so it says things that are not really true, and just to work it out altogether. The Gemara does that sometimes when it does math problems, and people have difficulty on those Gemaras. Did the Gemara think that this step is true? It's surely not true. But that's how the Gemara does math. Sometimes it goes step by step, and even though some steps don't make sense, we're just getting to work it out together. So this Gemara is an example of this. Here Rashi tells us, just I had it highlighted in Rashi, that the whole sugya doesn't really, a lot of steps that don't make sense. But the Gemara just wants to work it out with you in order that you should see how it comes out. So the issue of the next sugya is going to be that when you, at the point of Yehuda, the whole sugya you don't pass on like you pass on to Rabbanan, that you're not worried his wife is going to die, you don't prepare another wife. But the whole sugya is going according to Yehuda that is choshish that his wife is going to die, and you have to prepare another wife to be on deck. How are you going to do that? How are you going to take care of preparing another wife? So the Gemara starts with the issue is going to be, we said Beisos Ishto, that he has to have a wife, and the Gemara is going to say 2 points. That Beiso doesn't mean that he's just how would we say betrothed to a wife. He has to actually be married. It has to be a complete marriage, which means that he had relations. That's considered the complete marriage, not only kedushin, also nesuin. There's eris and nesuin, the 2 stages of marriage. It has to be completely his wife. That's going to be one halacha which comes out that will be relative to us also. Halacha also it's going to say that it has to have 1 wife and not 2 wives. And that part that the Gemara is going to say is relevant even according to us, the Rabbanan, that are not choshish fed, that you don't have to prepare another wife. But this halacha comes out 2 points that on Negel Lamaisa, that has to be a full, complete marriage, a consummated marriage, and also only 1 wife and not 2 wives. So the Gemara starts about here we are by the blue line. Is it enough to just prepare a wife? As if the Gemara first thought, Maskina, you get a woman ready who's ready. Of course, a basula, she can't be a widow, she can't be a divorcee, and not even a widow. She has to have never been married, a basula, and she's ready to marry him. That's how the Gemara sounded. Maskina, you get ready. She's on deck. If the Kohen Gadol needs a wife, she'll be ready to marry him. But the Gemara says, is that enough just to get her ready? It's not, she's not married to him. Just to be ready to marry, that's not enough. She has to be married. So the Gemara says, you're right. Okay, the Mekadosh law, that he's actually betrothed her. He does a Riyat Mekudeshesli, he gives her a tabaz, a shavapruta, and says a Riyat Mekudeshesli, so she's already betrothed. So that's maybe enough of a marriage. But the Gemara says, no, that's not enough. Until he has relations with her, then it's like in his house, he relations, consummating the marriage. It's still not a beso. Beso means mamash's wife. Okay, so the Gemara says also the Konis law. Of course, it has to be happening before Yom Kippur. So before Yom Kippur, he marries the second wife. It comes out according to Yehuda, every Kohen Gadol has to marry a second wife at least before Yom Kippur. But the Gemara says then it's also not going to be good. It's too much. He has 2 wives. A Kohen Gadol can't have 2 wives. And can't for Yom Kippur at least. You can't have a Leishnei Batim. And Beso means his house, means only 1 bias, not 2 batim. Below Bashnei Batim. The fact that it says he should atone for his himself and for his family, but it doesn't say families. His own family, one family. That means 1 wife. So if he has 2 wives, also he wouldn't be kosher for Avodah. So that's the Gemara's kasha. So now the Gemara starts with the different steps, and as we said, a lot of them are not going to make sense. But just working it out with us till it comes to the final solution. So the Gemara says, he marries her and he divorces her. But then, of course, he didn't accomplish anything. If he divorces her, so he only has 1 wife again, he didn't accomplish anything by marrying and divorcing her, didn't even make sense. But okay, something about divorce, that's going to be some of the answer, that some of the solution is going to be that he's going to divorce her, and that's going to help something. So the Gemara says, first white line, so he is going to divorce her with a condition. He on a condition. He means he marries a second wife, but he divorces her with a condition. Before Yom Kippur, he marries her and also gives her a divorce document, but only on a condition. So then, at this point, again, it doesn't make sense. He says he marries her, then he gives her a divorce on a divorce contract before Yom Kippur on the condition that she dies. If she dies on Yom Kippur, so then she's to make divorce before Yom Kippur, which doesn't make sense. Again, we're back to the same thing over again, that he doesn't have a wife. In case the whole problem is not solved yet, he married her and divorced her. And And if she dies, she's divorced even earlier. So the Gemara says what the problem is. Why if she doesn't die? If she dies, which then she's already divorced from before He never was married to her. But then the whole problem was maybe she's not going to die, and then he has two wives. And then the divorce is not a divorce, and he comes into Yom Kippur with two wives. Back to the problem again. There might have been other ways of asking kasha from a different angle. That's the way the Gemara asks it, that if she doesn't die, so then the divorce is not a divorce, so he has two wives. Second wide line, he gives her a divorce on the condition that she doesn't die. If she dies, then it's not a divorce. If she does not die, then it is a divorce. And the Gemara explains, if she doesn't die, so then she's divorced. So he doesn't have two wives. If she does die, so then he has the first wife. Then he has the original wife still. The Gemara asks, the Gemara says you didn't gain anything. The whole thing you took care was you married a second wife, and then you made sure on the way that you did a contract with a divorce with a condition to make sure he doesn't have two wives. It means you made a problem. You made an even worse problem than you had. You made two wives. Till now you have one wife. That would have been good. As long as she stays alive, would have been good. But you were scared she's that the first wife number one is going to die. So you gave her a second wife. That made a problem. That has two wives now. So now you took care of the second problem, that the second wife won't be a problem. That if she doesn't die, so then it's a divorce. Okay, but now back to the first problem. The first problem was that the first wife is going to die. If the first wife dies, and the second one is going to be divorced, he doesn't have any wife again. That's more Kasha on the fourth wide line. The high Gita. Maybe she's not going to die. If she doesn't die, then she's divorced. And maybe the first one is going to die, which was the whole shash in the first problem. The whole reason why I got into this whole mess is because maybe the first one is going to die. Become label of bias, and he's not going to have any house, any wife, because the first one died, then the second one was divorced. So again, all this, you can say, what's the Gemara think about all this? It's true, the Gemara knows that it doesn't make sense, but we're trying to work it out to get a marriage and a divorce in a way that he'll be able to avoid this problem. So we're on the fifth wide line. He doesn't say which one. He says, if one of you die, then this is going to be a divorce. And the Gemara explains, what does that mean? That if whichever one dies, if one of them dies, so then he has the other wife. If whichever one dies, he has the other wife. If one of them dies, that he gave a divorce, he gave one of them a divorce. If one of them dies, so he's never going to have two wives. But if one of them dies, he won't have two wives. But the Gemara asks, what if neither of them died? What was the divorce? If one of you died, then it's a divorce. But what if none of them die? Then she's not divorced. Then he has two wives again. Then we have a Gita, another problem besides this problem, which is an obvious problem. The problem is that it wouldn't be even a kosher divorce. To give a divorce, that's the Gemara is going to say now this Yisod, which we also had in Erevin. It says on the side that when someone gives a divorce, it has to be without any strings attached. It has to be able to be a definite cutoff. If someone gave a divorce, whatever condition, whatever it is, that even not to drink wine, nothing to do with nothing serious, but that he made a condition that bonds her forever, either as long as he lives or as long as she lives. So it's not a good krisus. It's not considered a cutoff. It has to be krisus means a cutoff. So it has to be that he gives her a divorce in a way that she's not bound to him anymore. He can't make a lifelong condition that's going to bind her forever. But if he said if he puts it in somebody else's life, as long as somebody else lives, it's possible that it'll come that it doesn't necessarily have to be as long as they live. So then it is a good krisus. It is a good divorce. Anyway, you see that if he says as long as somebody lives, as long as you live, that can't be a condition. It can't be that she's always dependent on him if the get's going to be a get or not. So the Gemara says on 3 lines up, he marries a second wife, and he says, I'm giving you a divorce on the condition that the first wife does not die. That's what it's getting. This is already getting warm. This is getting closer to target. What was the whole shash? And maybe the first wife is going to die. If the first wife is going to die, he needs a second wife. If the first wife does not die, then he does not need a second wife. So here is getting warmer. This condition sounds very much on target, that marries a second wife, but he gives her a divorce on the condition that the first wife does not die. Then it sounds good. If the first wife does not die, so she's divorced. That's divorced from every Kippur already. So he only has one wife. And if the first one does die, so then the second one is not divorced. So he has a wife. This seems already mamish on target. The Gemara could have said this right away, maybe that he gives her he marries a second one and gives her a divorce with this condition, and that way he's only going to have one wife, not two, only one. Not none, not two. He'll have one. But the Gemara here on the bottom line, the Gemara says what the problem might be. The Dilma Ma'isa Chavata Bepalga Davoda. The Dilma Misa Chavata Bepalga Davoda. Here the Gemara comes now. The Gemara is saying what the problem really would be, even after this nice condition. Still, of course, the whole thing is very far fetched. That it says every Kohen Gadol, the Kohen has to marry another wife every Kippur with this whole process. Very interesting how the Gemara will hold you have to do that. We don't pass him like this, but Rabbi Yehuda himself, it seems, would have to make this whole cheshbon. But the Gemara's Takash on the bottom line, maybe she's going to die in the middle of the avodah. Means on Yom Kippur, not the Yom Kippur at night, the eve of Yom Kippur, the morning of Yom Kippur. Maybe she's going to die when he's ready in the middle of doing the avodah already. What's going to happen? The Gloin Milsa, the Mafreya, the Gita, the High, Lav Gitahu, the Avid Leavodah, the Shnei Batim. What do we say? That if the first wife dies, so then he does not want to get, right? He has the first wife, and the only problem is that if she dies, then he needs a wife. So he gave the second one a divorce on the condition that the first one does not die. But if the first one does die, no matter what time during the day, but if the first one is going to die, so then the second one is not divorced. So if that happens, if she died in the middle of the day, so then the divorce was not a divorce, and then it means that he had two wives in the first half of the avodah, in the first half of the day when he was doing avodah. So then he does have the second wife. The first wife is still living, and the second wife is not divorced. So it's only this Eitzah, the solution only would be a good solution if she would die the night of Yom Kippur, before Yom Kippur, before the avodah. But if in middle of the avodah, so then he's going to be doing the avodah. In the beginning of the avodah was with two wives. So the Gemara is going to adjust the condition again. Second line. Not again. This is not going to be such a good condition. Again, this Gemara is working it out. He doesn't give her to get on the condition that the first one does not die, but on the condition that the first one does die, which this is getting back into a mess again. This doesn't make sense. That he's gonna divorce the second one if the first one dies, which is of course a problem. That he's not gonna have any wife. And the Gemara says, that back into the frying pan again. That if the first one is gonna die and the second one is divorced, he has no wife. So now the Gemara is gonna get closer. It gets getting very, very warm now. On the fifth line, he divorces both of them. Means he had his original wife and everything was fine. Just Yom Kippur came and then he has to have a chash. She's gonna die. He has to get another wife. But he has to make sure he doesn't have two wives. So now he has to give a divorce contract to both of his wives. His first original wife, which he hopes is going to continue after Yom Kippur also. But after this, with this whole issue, he'll have to give her a divorce contract with a condition. He gives both of them divorce contracts. So the idea the Gemara is saying, we'll say the words first, then we'll say this. It'll be very surprising what the Gemara says, so we'll explain what it means. First, he gives one of them a get, and he says that this is a divorce on the condition that your friend, means that the other wife, the fellow wife, is not going to die. If she doesn't die, then I can't have two wives. If she does not die, so then you're divorced. If now what was the other problem? He has to have one kind of a wife that is possible. That if he needs to find out in the middle of the day, he has to know if this wife is supposed to be divorced or not. So he does something that he should be able to have a string on it. He can't divorce her on Yom Kippur. He has to be able to divorce her before Yom Kippur. He has to have that when it came in the Mafreya, retroactively she wasn't his wife. Well, the Gemara picks any idea. Could have said any condition. It doesn't make she should make any condition. The first condition we're talking about till now the whole time is if somebody dies, if someone doesn't die, that's not in his power. But here the Gemara is saying you should make a condition on the condition that you don't go into the shul, which is a very interesting condition. Don't go into the shul. It's just another way of saying something that is in our hand, our power to control. He could have said jump up 3 times, walk around the block, whatever you wanted to. The Gemara just gave an example of something that's in our power to control. So what does he do? He has two wives. He has two wives, and now he gives one of them a divorce on the condition that if the other one does not die, so then you're divorced. But the other one, the question was if one of them is gonna die in the middle of the day. So he gave her a condition, a divorce contract that is a possible amanash lo tikansi lebeisak nesses, and the condition that she doesn't go into a shul. On this, the Gemara asks, so that means he's able to control it. If he needs to divorce her, he'll divorce her. If he doesn't need to divorce her, then he won't divorce her.
I thought we said that that's the kind that's not a krisis.
No, why not?
Because then it's for the rest of her life. She can't go into a Beit Knesset.
No, so we can say for that day. It means on that day, on the day of Yom Kippur. It's only a temporary condition for that one day. It doesn't mean forever. The Gemara says that you can't. This is a technicality that you can't trust her that she's gonna do the condition. You're giving it in her hand to make the condition work or not. Maybe the other one is not going to die, and also this one that is not going to go into the basic Knesset, and means that both of them are a get. Means the first one got a get because the other one didn't die. So her get is a good get, and the other one she didn't go into the shul, whatever the condition they made. So that is also a get, and both of them are divorced. So he has no house, he has no family. So now this is the final answer. The one that's highlighted over here, this is the final answer. After all the working out, this is the final answer of the condition that he'll be able to do. So again, he marries a second wife. He has two wives. That's what this was called, holding on the whole time. To one of them, let's say the second one, no difference really, but to the second one probably, he says that this is a divorce on the condition that the first one does not die. So if she doesn't die, this one is divorced, and he only has one wife. It was good. But what was the problem? That maybe she'll die halfway through the day, halfway through the avoda. He also makes a condition that's something that's dependent on an outside factor that's in his control. But this time he left it into his control. He put it in his control that the Kohen Gadol himself, he's going to go into the basic Knesset. Whenever he wants it to be, if he has a way now to activate the get. That's the whole kunst. That's the whole trick that the Gemara did. That it made a get that's hanging. That he has the power to activate it retroactively on Yom Kippur. It's not, and the Gemara explains what the scenario is. If one of them dies, so then the whole problem was, what's the beginning of the whole problem? One of them is going to die. Okay, so that's why he has a second wife. If the first one dies, so that, which was the whole problem, so then he has a second wife, and her get was only on the condition that this one does not die, but she did die. So he has a second wife. The and if the other one is gonna die, so then he has the first one. Everything's fine. What's the problem? What's the problem scenario? Maybe one of them is gonna die halfway through the avoda. That comes out that since the second one's divorce is not a divorce, and the first one was married to him still, so at that time he had two wives. The second half of the avoda, once she died, he only has a second wife. But in the beginning, he had two wives because the first one was still alive and the second one is not divorced. So how is he going to be able to activate that the first one, the one who died and halfway through the day, that she should not have been married to him the whole day, even the first half of the avoda? Where are we holding? The answer is 4 lines before it spreads. If he sees that she's dying, so he has a way to activate the get. He goes into the shul, that activates her get. It's going to make her divorced retroactively from before Yom Kippur. That's the end of that sugya. It sounds very, very, very far-fetched, of course. We don't pass like that, but it comes out. I don't know if Yehuda necessarily went through all these steps, but the Gemara is saying that after we know that it's not enough just to prepare her, she has to be married to her mamish, and also if he's going to marry her, so then it's possible he has two wives. That also doesn't pass. He has to have only one wife. So l'chor would be necessary to do this whole thing, to give one of them a get on the condition that the first one does not die, and the second one he'll give a get in a way that he can activate it if he needs to, that she's going to be dying in the middle of the avoda. He'll give her a get that he could now activate retroactively that she should have been divorced in the beginning. So then he'll have only the second wife. And that's how
on Har Habayit, where it's considered the Beit Knesset, the Azarah.
There was a Beit Knesset in the Har Habayit. That the Gemara says in Sukkah that there was a Beit Knesset in the Har Habayit. Over there, the Gemara talks about it seems that they had Beit Knesset besides going into the Beis Hamikdash. They also in Har Habayit. There seems that there were many lishachot. And the fact is also it didn't have to be the Gemara's the example. There's a Beit Knesset which is mashma that it was there on the Har Habayit, but also for
that's one example. Yeah, that's true. You said that. Okay, thank you.
jump up 3 times. But that's what the Gemara means to say. Okay, now the Gemara is just going back. We're going to backtrack a little bit. I hope that it made sense. The general idea, I think we got, and the Maskana makes sense. And again, we don't pass like this because we're not choshish for Misa. The Gemara is just impressed with the fact that it said that bias that says v'chiper ba'ado ba'ad beiso, that the Gemara said in the beginning of the whole sugya, that it has to be only one wife and not 2 wives. That was the Gemara that said, it's highlighted over here, beiso v'lo ba'ad shnei batin. That if the pasuk says beiso, it means only one wife and not 2 wives. It's not the Gemara is going to take that to other cases and see if that's true, if it holds true in other sugyas. 1 line before it spreads, 2 lines before it spreads. If it's true that a bias means only one, so the pasuk talks about when somebody dies without children, so the wife is supposed to do yibum, and it says it talks about the house of his brother, the brother who died without children. So it talks about his house, and you're going to say if he has 2 wives, what's it if somebody had 2 wives and he died? Is there no yibum? And the Gemara knows there is yibum. Somebody had 2 wives and he died without children, so then there's also a din of yibum. The brother is supposed to marry one of the wives. He doesn't marry both of them; he marries one of them. But there's such a din that he's supposed to marry one of the wives also. And according to what you're saying, the whole din of yibum was only said by bias. You're saying that the word bias by Yom Kippur means only one house, not 1 wife, not 2 wives. Are you going to say that the same thing that it says bias by the din of yibum, you're going to say that it means only 1 wife and not 2 wives? That's not true. The Gemara answers, first white line, yivimta. Over there, you're right. The word bias alone would have meant only 1 wife. But the pasuk over there says many times the word yivama, that's coming to be marba, coming to include even if he has 2 wives also. But the kasha was a good kasha. But the truth is that there's a difference. By Yom Kippur, he only can have 1 wife. By yivama, even if he has 2 wives also, there's a din to be miyabin one of them. The first white line, Masif Ravina, Vitamer Rav Sharvia, Elmayata, Rusalot Yabim. Also another question similar to what we said before, the same pattern. But here we said when it says bias that a Kohen Gadol has to have a wife, we said it has to mean a wife who's completely his wife, not only betrothed with kedushin. It has to be the consummated marriage in order to be considered a wife. If that's so then by yibum also talks about you doing yibum to a wife, to the wife of the one who died. Are you going to say dafka if he had a complete marriage? What if the brother who died, he had only erison? He had only erison, which doesn't mean today's engagement. It means that he had kedushin, but they did not yet consummate the marriage. Are you going to say that if he dies, there's no din of yibum? The truth is that there is. So the Gemara is asking 2 kashas similar, that if we say by Beso that it says by Yom Kippur, it means a wife who's completely married and also only 1. How do you apply that to yibum? Over there, the din is even if there are 2 wives and even if it's only an arusa. And now, so the first answer, kasha, the Gemara said, because it says yivim to it says many times the word yivama. How about this halacha? What if she's only an arusa? The answer is, second line, achutza l'rabbis is arusa. The pasuk says, "Losia ishes hameis achutza l'zor." The pasuk pshat means that she shouldn't marry out of the family. But the Drash is going to say, "Losia ishes hameis achutza." The woman who is in a chutza. Chutza means that she's not completely married to him. It's a Drash, of course, but it's saying that even a woman who's not completely married to the husband that died, also there's a din of yibum. So that comes out. The end of the sugya, the Swamish end of the sugya should be here a stop. I didn't have time to make it. That's the end of the sugya. And what came out of this whole sugya, that by according to Rabbi Yehuda, who was choshish for wife dying, you have to take the precaution of making another wife. You'll have to do this whole process of marrying 2 wives and giving both of them kitten. And one of them is going to be a condition the first one doesn't die, and the second one will be give a get on condition that I can activate it whenever I want to by doing something that we make up. And if he sees that the first wife is going to die, so then he is going to have to activate the get on prayer that she shouldn't have been his wife the whole Yom Kippur. And 2 halachas that came out, we said in the beginning, just to emphasize it again, that by Yom Kippur it has to be a full wife, not only kedushin, even nesuin, and also only 1 wife, not 2 wives. The Gemara says both of these halachas don't apply to yibum. By yibum, even if he has 2 wives, there is a din of yibum. This only on one of them, but there's a din of yibum, and also even if she's only an arusa, there's also a din of yibum. But there's special psukim over there to learn that out. Now starts a new sugya, mamish a new sugya, and that is Tanur Rabbanan. 5 lines from the bottom. New sugya completely. Tanur Rabbanan. Kohen Gadol makibone. The Gemara brings it in because at the end of the sugya, we'll see how I go back to our Mishnah again. It's going to bring a proof from our Mishnah, so that's why we're going to left field, and we don't know yet why we're connected over here. Tanur Rabbanan. Kohen Gadol makibone ve'eno ochel. The din is that a Kohen Gadol is allowed to do avoda even if he's in mourning. Even if he's in a state of mourning, a relative died, he's still allowed to do avoda. He doesn't. It's this week's parsha, more like parsha's upcoming parsha. We just finished Achrimos, Kedoshim. That was today's parsha about the Avodah of Yom Kippur, and now we're already in Parsha Semor, upcoming parsha that talks about the Kohanim. And it says that the Kohen Gadol is does not become tummy, does not even for 7 relatives, which a regular Kohen is allowed to become tummy to make to those relatives, but a Kohen Gadol does not. But here it says Kohen Gadol makriv onein ve'eino ochel. Even though he's allowed to still continue doing an avoda when he's in a state of aninus. Aninus means when he's in mourning. Even mourning means the first days, when he's mamish the beginning. When the relative is irregular, he's not allowed to do avoda at that state. But a Kohen Gadol is makriv onein. He does do avoda even if he's in a state of owning. But ve'eino ochel, he's not allowed to eat kachim. The Kohen Gadol, even though we do allow him, the pasuk allows him to do avoda, but not to eat kachim. Fine. Rashi says anything on Rashi about that? Rashi, if it's not highlighted, but the Rashi ve'eino ochel shelo hutro kan el avoda v'kachim asurim la'onein kavuchom. So only avoda is mutter. The Kohen Gadol is allowed to do avoda even though when the relative dies is only avoda that he's allowed to do, but he's not allowed to eat the kachim. Okay, why does the Gemara bring that? We'll continue later. Rav Yehuda Omer Kol Hayom. Third white line. Rav Yehuda Omer Kol Hayom. Very vague, abstract, not a clear statement. We don't know what that means. Rav Yehuda says the whole day. What does that mean? What does it mean the whole day? What does it mean? My Kol Hayom. What do the words mean? So the Rava thinks that it means that not only is he allowed to do avoda, but you bring him dafka, even if he was not doing avoda. Not only if he's doing avoda, do you let him continue? But if he's home not doing avoda and it became a novel, so a relative died, you bring him dafka to the Beis Hamikdash that he should do avoda. Rashi says, I don't know if others say different than Rashi. Rashi highlighted laviu mitoch beiso mitzvah laviu lamikdash lavod kol hayom. Dafka bring him, and Rashi says kadesh lafakech tzaro to take him away from his tzar. The Kohen Gadol is not supposed to be in a state of mourning, and even if he is home and he's not doing avoda, dafka bring him to the Beis Hamikdash. He should do avoda that he should not be in a state of mourning. So the Tanna Kama said that he's mutter to do avoda. Rav Yehuda says dafka bring him in, dafka make him do avoda. Amalei Abaye said it can't be. Rav Yehuda can't be saying that. On the contrary, Rav Yehuda says take him out of the avoda. The Tanya, which of course means he's really not high to. We just learned a second ago that the Kohen Gadol he's allowed to do avoda if he's an onen. But Rashi says that it means if you look at Rashi here, it's highlighted. Really nothing to do with the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Hediot, who became an onen, is allowed to do avoda or not. So Rav Yehuda says that even if he's in the middle of doing the avoda, you stop him and you take him out. So you see, Rav Yehuda holds that you're more machmir than the Rabbanan as far as aninus go. The Rabbanan over there say that if he's, let's see the inside, what it says, the a regular Kohen, the Kohen Hediot. Yossi says that he's allowed to finish. If he's in the middle of the avoda, he's allowed to finish. Abida says no, even if he's in the middle, he has to stop the avoda in the middle and stop. So you see, as far as aninus goes, not by the Kohen Gadol. You see, Abida is the more machmir. So because if Abida is more machmir, so the Gemara doesn't think that's right. That's a bias kasha that even by the Kohen Gadol that he's allowed to. Everyone knows he's allowed to do avoda, but it's not going to be Abida's going to be more makel and say dafka come to do avoda. If you want to say that he's allowed to do avoda, but not dafka to bring him from his house to do avoda in order to dafka make him do avoda, Rabbi is the opposite in direction. By Kohen Hediot, you see that he's more machmir, so probably is going to be not more makel by Kohen Gadol. So therefore, Abai does not accept Rabbi's pshat that Rabbi says that he should dafka do avoda. So va'at amrit ma'asina le'bitov. So you saying by the Kohen Gadol, you're going to tell him to come from his house. So the Gemara didn't accept that pshat. Elam Rava. So Rava seemed to agree with Abai's kasha, so Rava's going to try again. The first teres was Rava, and Abai rejected it, and it seems here that Rava agreed to the rejection, and he's going to say another pshat. Elam Rava, my kalayom, back to the words. It says in the Brisa that a Kohen Gadol who's an onen is allowed to do avoda, but he can't eat. Rabbi Yehuda said the whole day, but the whole day what? We don't know what the whole day means. The whole day what? My kalayom, loma, she'en ovid eli ovid kalayom. That he should not do avoda. Means even though we said a second ago, the beginning of the sentence says that he does do avoda. The Kohen Gadol is allowed to do avoda. But then he says the whole day he should not do avoda. The whole day means at night he's allowed to do avoda already, because then Aninos usually is only drabanan at night, but in the day, so eina ovid kalayom. Why? He's allowed to do avoda. The Brisa said, if you jump back to the Brisa said he's allowed to do avoda, he's not allowed to eat. And then Abu said the whole day he shouldn't do avoda. Why not? Gezerah, that he might come to eat. Gezerah Shema Yochel, top line, Gezerah Shema Yochel. Because since you say that he's not allowed to eat kachim, if he's going to do avoda, he might make a mistake and also eat kachim. That he's not allowed to do. So Midrabanan, don't do avoda either. Again, with the Brisa he's allowed to do avoda, and he's allowed to, but he's not allowed to eat kachim. So with Rabbanan, they said, don't do avoda because you might come to make a mistake and eat kachim. That's Rabba's pshat in Rabbi Yehuda. Amalei Rav Adabarav the Rabba Umigaz Rabbi Yehuda Shema Yochal. Do you say this chash that if someone's going to do avoda, he might eat the kachim also by mistake? But Tanan, now we come back to our Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, that's how the whole sugi came in because of our Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Afisha Acheres Maskina Lo Shema Thomas Ishta. What does Rabbi Yehuda say? That with Choshish, the Kohen Gadol's wife is going to die, so therefore you prepare another wife for him. So as far as how you prepare the wife, we had all the technicalities. We just learned this daf that told us how you do that in order to prepare another wife. But if his wife does die, he's an onin. The Kohen Gadol would be an onin. The Maisa Ishto of avoda. You see that Rabbi is not concerned that the wife died. He has another wife. He took care. He has a second wife. Fine. We took care of that. He has a second wife. But the first wife, he just lost his wife. And you say that he's allowed to do avoda. If you say that according to Rabbi Yehuda, he's not allowed to do avoda because he might come to eat. You think he's not allowed to do an avoda. So then how could it be that this Kohen Gadol, his wife just died, is going to do avoda? He just said Rabbi Yehuda holds that he's not allowed to do avoda. And here the Mishnah is muchach that even if the Kohen Gadol's wife dies, he's in a state of mourning, he is allowed to do avoda. You're just concerned he should have another wife. So we orchestrated that he should have a second wife. Fine. So we took care of the problem. But he's an onin, and you say that only he's not allowed to do avoda. Again, inside a second line, that he's not allowed to do avoda because he might come to eat. The Mishnah says that we prepare another wife in case his wife dies. But what happens? He might say if he does, wife does die. So he has a second wife, fine. You see that he is allowed to do avoda, and he's not choshish. Don't do avoda because you might come to eat kashim. So simple answer. Amalei. What's the question? Of course not. It's Yom Kippur. Nobody's eating. What's the comparison? Over there, Hashem Chibad Yom Kippur, who the Kul Yam Lo Ka'achli, Unam Lo Asil Mechav. Acha the Kul Yam Achli, Unam Yasil Mechav. A simple answer. On Yom Kippur, nobody eats. There's no chash that is going to eat. Nobody's eating. So it's Yom Kippur. Nobody's eating. Till now, the top line is talking about that it's a regular day. The Kohen Gadol is in mourning. He's not allowed to eat kachim. He's allowed to eat food also. He's just not allowed to eat kachim. And everybody else is eating kachim. He's not allowed to eat kachim. So then you say, don't do avoda because you might come to eat kachim. If you're going to be doing avoda, he'll forget halachas of that he's an onin, and he'll think he's allowed to eat also. So it makes a good sense that because you're not allowed to eat, so also don't do avoda. But over here, there's no shash he's going to eat. It's Yom Kippur, nobody eats. Not only you don't eat kashim, he doesn't eat anything. So real easy answer. The Gemara at the end, the last three lines before the Mishnah, it just goes back to say that kasha l'char didn't make sense. The Gemara is attacking the Gemara's kasha. We have the answer already also. The kasha was that he's an onin because of his wife. Why not choshish he's going to eat? The answer is because it's Yom Kippur, he's not going to eat. But the Gemara is backtracking. The kasha doesn't make sense. What was the Gemara's kasha? That he's an onin because his wife died. The Gemara says it's not his wife. The case that his wife died, what do we do? The whole cheshbon we just made today, we made the cheshbon that if his wife is dying, he goes into the basic knesses, whatever, he activates the get that he gave yesterday, and he divorces her. So even though she's been his wife for many years, and it could be that they're married for whatever, 20, 30, 40 years, but he just divorced her yesterday. So when it comes that she dies, when she does die, he gives her a divorce, and she's divorced from the day before. There is no mourning for a wife that died, even if she just divorced her yesterday, but today she's not anymore, and retroactively, he walks into the basic nesses, he activates the get that it should be a get from yesterday. He's not married to her. So when she dies, she's not his wife. She's not his wife anymore. So why is there aninus? The kasha didn't make sense. In this case, was he an onin at all? She's divorced retroactively from yesterday. The Gemara answers, no. As far as aninus goes, it doesn't have to do with officially as she divorced, married. This has been his wife. He just divorced her because of a technicality. He had to divorce her in order that he shouldn't have two wives when he was doing the avoda. It's true that he's not officially an onin. Halachically, he's not an onin because he officially divorced her yesterday. Retroactively divorced her yesterday. But this is his wife, and the whole point of aninus that onin is not allowed to touch him is because he's in a state of mind. He's in a mourning state. This Kohen Gadol is just as much in a state of mourning for his wife that he just divorced retroactively because he couldn't have had two wives. A technicality that if she's dying, so I'll divorce her from yesterday already, but it's not that he would really divorce her. He feels terrible the same way he would feel terrible if she wouldn't, maybe even feels worse that he had to divorce her, but it's not going to take away from his pain of the mourning. So therefore, as far as the kasha was a good kasha, that if he's considered in the state of mourning and he's not allowed to eat kachim, and how come you let him do avoda even though he might come to eat the kachim? And the answer is he's not going to eat kachim because it's Yom Kippur, there's no chash he's going to eat. That's the end of the sugya. All this was working out Rabbi Yehuda. The halachas that come out of this Gemara are just what we said a couple of times, that he has to be completely married to his wife, not only Erisin, even even suing, and also only one wife and not two wives. The beginning of Gemara spoke about Misa Loshchicha, that's why they're running at Choshesh. And as far as the Elul Sof, they said because the fact that we make somebody on deck is going to encourage him to be able to make sure he doesn't become Tamil. And then all the Gemara spoke about how to make the condition in a way that he shouldn't have two wives, that he should have at least one wife if he needs. And that was Avyuda's, the more comes out, that's the way they make the Tanai. He marries another wife. One of them he gives the divorce on condition that the other one does not die. And if she does die, if she does not die, so then this one is divorced. If she does die, so then he has a second wife. But then he has to divorce the second one retroactively from the beginning of the date that he shouldn't have been married. So he gives her a get in case she's dying, that he'll be able to activate or whatever condition he made up. As far as Yibum, what do we say? That Yibum is even if somebody has two wives and he dies, also there's then Yibum done to one of his wives. And even Arusa, also there's Yibum, even on a wife who's only an Arusa. And as far as this Gemara, the Gemara said the Kohen Gadol was not to do avoda, even though he's a known, he's not allowed to touch him. Rabbi Yehuda says that he shouldn't do avoda midrabbanan. He shouldn't do avoda midrabbanan because he might come to eat. And it seems no passing like that. It seems he passed on to Rabbanan. There's no such chashash. And even according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Gemara said that chashash would not apply in Yom Kippur because the whole chashash is he shouldn't do avoda. He might come to eat. And Yom Kippur nobody's eating. Okay, Yashikach. I'm sorry for the delay today. Hope everybody enjoyed the daf. And the Shekar, maybe they reserved the charter too for this Gemara today, but I hope that it was clear, semi-clear. The Shekar, everybody, Shavua Tov. Tomorrow we start at 11 o'clock, 11 o'clock a.m. And 12 o'clock will be the regular shir, and tomorrow's supposed to be Pirkei Avos. The Shekar, everybody. Thank you. Shavua Tov, and I'm sorry again.
Tomorrow we
Thanks a
start
lot.
at 11.
All the best.
Tomorrow at 11, yes.
Tomorrow Daf Yomi is at 11.
Daf Yomi is at 11. Yeah, I thought I said that. Maybe I made a mistake. Daf Yomi at 11 and 12 o'clock is the regular share. Thank you. Kol tov, everybody. Shavua tov.
Thanks, Rob.